levels that you're never gonna get. Always push it up into the red. Never expect your respect. I train 52 weeks times 10.
Upon its release, The Dark Knight Returns changed the landscape of comics. It offered a gritty take on the Caped Crusader that was a complete polar opposite to the 1966 show. Before this book, Batman was regarded as a clown by the public consciousness. A lovable joke that provided comedic relief on a Saturday morning. It was a far cry from the dark look at crime that the character had once been, and The Dark Knight Returns restored the character to the status quo whilst deconstructing comics in the process. But does it still stand up? It's been 30 years since its release, and whilst it is one of my favourite graphic novels of all time, even I can admit that it's not perfect. Tastes change, and the scrutiny that we now hold to modern comics may shine this in a poor light. There's also the fact that Frank Miller has went absolutely proper mental. Is this book a product of its time, or is it still one of the best ever? That's what I'm here to find out. So without further ado, let's dive into my Dark Knight Returns review. The book opens on Bruce Wayne racing to his death in Gotham's annual Master Race. That's not a pun for the well, it is a pun for the Dark Knight 3, but I'll stop with them shits. After giving up the mantle of Batman due to Jason Todd's death, he feels like a lost man. Similar to astronauts who become alcoholics after returning to Earth, he's lost the purpose that gave him life. He achieved greatness, but it was a curse. Nothing measures up to being the Dark Knight, and now he seeks a glorious death at every opportunity. This was completely groundbreaking for the time. Prior to this, we rarely ever saw an old superhero. Immortalized through the pages of the comics, superheroes were supposed to be young men no matter what the decade. Constantly in the 30s, Batman hadn't aged since the 1930s. This book shook up that notion. The young Batman was no more, and all that was left was a cold, beaten shell of a man. I absolutely love this twist on the character. It's a true deconstruction of the genre that I believe went on to influence things like Metal Gear Solid 4, Rambo, Unforgiven, list goes on. It's my preferred version of Batman. It's easy to see why DC have used this as a springboard for their new movie universe. Batman's gritty, grumpier. He's like Gran Torino times 400. I think this is one of the main selling points of the character in this book. What's fascinating about this opening race is how well it works metaphorically in telling the tale of Bruce's journey through the book. I never really noticed it till now, but it really works. The card is what it's not supposed to. It has a mind of its own. It's almost forced to be put down. Quit the race, but the engine argues back. Bruce says it would be a good death, but not good enough as he crosses the finish line. The news reports that it's a flaming coffin for Bruce Wayne, or so everyone thought. This is an outstanding portrayal of Bruce's journey throughout the book. Like the car going out in a blaze of glory against all those trying to control it, Bruce Wayne is on a path to destruction that he barely makes it through. Crime is rampant through Gotham and Bruce cannot take it anymore. There's a calling within him, and the return to the cowl is still as dramatic today as it was in 1986. To me, this has always been a book about falling off the horse and getting back on it. How many times have you personally been great at something and then you've been forced to quit it? That feeling of lust that you have towards being great again never really goes away. It's buried deep inside, and it's a perfect summation of Bruce's need to become Batman once more. It's one of the aspects that makes the character so relatable in this incarnation, and to see him return to it's a really triumphant moment. He dives into the night, thunder on his back, and it's a really reaffirming moment that we all have the ability deep down to be the person that we once were and want to be. His first night back in the role is highly inspirational, and I can't commend Miller highly enough for how breathtaking this moment is. Harvey Dent's been cured. Plastic surgery's restored his face to what it once was, and this should have restored him psychologically, but he's still a bad guy that everyone loves to hate. There's a great ambiguity and mystery around Harvey's true intentions throughout this book, and it'll definitely be enough to keep first-time readers gripped. Acting as a Black Mirror, I absolutely love the way that Miller uses Two-Face to reflect how Bruce is. It's a real struggle that he's unable to defeat. He can't battle his inner demons, and eventually the beast within is going to take him down. Similar to this, the Joker, who has been vegetative since Batman's retirement, begins to awaken. All of the giants of Gotham have their calling, their purpose. that without they cease to exist, and this is what the book, especially book 1, is about. One of the biggest takes that I've seen centered around this book is that the Joker is gay. Whilst he uses words like darling, he fights Batman in the tunnel of love. There's several innuendos, like not falling asleep on me on you when Batman can't perform. I never really took it to be intentionally homosexual. To me, the Joker's actually asexual. Whilst we encounter Bruno, his girlfriend, who's very masculine, with them stupid Nazi nipples, we never see the two cohabit the same space. Upon release, the Joker never seeks her out, and she doesn't ever mention at any point that she's tried to spring the Joker from Arkham. This signifies to me that the relationship's completely superficial. The Joker is unable to love another person, in my opinion. Instead, he loves an idea. He is chaos embodied. Batman represents order. Together, the two create a perfect circle of human states, balancing the other perfectly. Batman completes the Joker, but that doesn't mean that the Joker loves him, in a traditional sense at least. He merely requires him to exist, the same way that humans depend on oxygen, but we don't love oxygen. Joker depends on order, but he doesn't love Batman. He's a wicked and twisted being. He feels almost no human emotion, and it seems unconventional for the Joker to experience love in my eyes, especially when it's such a positive human emotion. So I simply can't confirm that the Joker loves Batman, no matter how much people portray him as having this emotional attachment. I'm open to the fact that I'm wrong though, or if you think I'm wrong, comment below. That's the perfect way to derail my entire argument. Book 1 ends on Harvey Dent attempting to ransom Gotham by threatening to blow up the two towers. Whilst this might be controversial in today's eyes due to 9/11, it certainly acts as a great end to the first issue. One thing I didn't like about the animated movie was that it implied that Harvey Dent was on a suicide mission, which I really don't take from reading the book. To me, I see it as the Toyman who built the bomb deliberately sabotaged them so they couldn't be deactivated. This is implied by his meeting with the Joker, who begins questioning the Toyman's use of the bombs. Harvey isn't suicidal to me. In fact, he totally accepts who he is and plays along with it, and really embraces the two-faced persona that we see in this book. Knowing that he's unable to escape his fate, much like Batman, it's a great closer to book 1, and this works perfectly as an opening issue. On book 1's own merit, I want to score it a perfect 10 out of 10. The plot and characters are very well developed, even by today's standards, and it still feels very ahead of the curve in its ideas. Miller's art's also very good in this issue. It's definitely some of the best he's put on page. So I recommend you pick it up just to read this issue alone. Thanks for checking out my review of The Dark Knight Returns Book 1. I'll be back with my follow-up review of Book 2. I'm doing this series as a build-up to reviewing The Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and keep up to date. I'm also on Patreon now, which is linked in the description. I've got to buy loads of books that I've got to review. Anything that you can donate really helps towards purchasing them, so your pledge can make a huge difference. Thank you very much. Take care. Peace.